Hey everyone, Greg here. As you may know by now, I'm the co-founder and CEO of TripShock, an online reseller for water sports and tours. For the past 12 years, we've had the pleasure of working with hundreds of operators across the country, and we're looking to grow our community. It's free to sign up, and you only pay when we bring you confirmed bookings. We'll help you reach new customers, fill empty seats, and grow your business like so many have done with us over the years. Head over to partners.tripshock.com to learn more about our program, read testimonials, or speak directly with our supply team. As always, thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
They come to relax, enjoy the beach, have fun, and spend money. And that's where we come in. This is the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. Find out tips on the best ways to market and operate a water sports business. If you're a water sports operator, you need to grow your brand, operate more safely, upgrade your operations, and of course, increase bookings. We're industry veterans, broadcasting from Destin, Florida. This is the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. And this is Kevin O'Neill and Greg Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 45 of the Awkward Watersports Guy podcast. Today, Kevin and I are going to be talking about a situational issue that some of us go through and offer some thoughts, advice, insight on how we've handled things in the past and kind of talk through some ideas to try to make the situation better. And that issue is rescheduling. And the reason why we thought about this is in the Facebook group, we saw a situation from one of our members talking about, a customer that has canceled or they want to reschedule their reservation while they're within the cancellation period and what the best process is for that. And obviously there's a lot of different ways to handle it. Some businesses are going to handle it differently because it's a more high-end product or it's like a charter reservation where, it's not something that's going to easily rebook. But just Kevin and I are just going to kind of talk about how we handle these things and what some good practice would be.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because I think like this issue it separates the difference between family-run business or mom-and-pop shop and then more corporate businesses that just sort of have a hard line. If you've ever tried to deal with an airline or a hotel and trying to circumvent their cancellation policy, it's pretty tricky. And rarely do they budge from those cancellation policies. I think it becomes a little difficult to navigate the charm that most water sports companies provide, being that there's not a huge customer service center in between the customer and management or customer resolution.
Yeah, there's a lot of responses in the group. And I think when it comes down to it, it has a lot to do with the product you're selling. And for example, if I'm selling a ticket to our dolphin cruise, an 130 passenger boat, and someone calls with like an hour before and says, hey, I'm not going to make it. Can I reschedule to tomorrow? The likelihood of you selling that seat is probably pretty good, especially if it's in a high demand schedule time. And plus you're not going to really feel the impacts of losing that revenue than you would if, let's say, it was a private fishing charter. You got to be able to handle. So let's kind of break out, those two segments and talk somewhat about like a multi-passenger vessel, like either a parasailing, dolphin cruise. Kevin, you did parasailing for several years. Did you run into this situation, and how do you feel like the best way to handle from like a multi-passenger perspective?
I hate to say this, but every situation is different. If you're going to retain some of that uniqueness and charm of being a family-run business, but at the same time, you want to take a page out of the book of these cancellation policies. There's a reason why they exist, because these are perishable products. It does affect your bottom line. I think whether it be a multi-passenger vessel or a boat to be rented, you sort of have to stick to your gun. So, and I think that they're not that far apart. At the end of the day, if you have 2 hours to fill a parasail boat seat, that might be pretty tricky. If you have 8 hours, every circumstance is going to be different. And that's why you have to have a policy that you can stick to. I'm pretty hard nosed about it. I hate to be hard nosed about it. If it's something where the customer's got a good attitude and something that's, because how do you tell when people are lying or when people are making stuff up? When you start getting into all these different situations, if you don't stick to your policy, that you lose that churn. It's gone. So it's a boat, it's a jet ski, it's a parasail boat. If you take your time and your effort and your staff's time, it's not just you're losing the spot, but now you're losing your staff's valuable time by dealing with this customer. But then on the flip side of that, if you don't give them what they want, then you might have to suffer a negative review. So it's a delicate balancing act.
I want to say a funny story about you, Kevin, but I'm going to wait and finish my thought. I'm just smiling because I'm thinking of something that happened just recently. But, one thing you said about sticking to your guns, one thing I don't like dealing with different tour operators is that they don't have any policy on these things like rescheduling within the cancellation or just cancellation refund policies in general. I think that it's really good for your company culture to have systems and sticking to them, because it's really hard for an employee to do their job if you're always switching your policies and you're also, when something goes wrong, you're kind of stepping in and giving the customer what they want. And it really kind of hurts your employees' ability to have autonomy in their job. And there's nothing worse than you doing your job exactly what you're told to. Boss comes in and just derails it. And you kind of look like the bad guy. And that's something that I see way too often, like the manager. And then maybe the manager's making the right call because it's a gray area and they just want things to go away. But I think there's better ways to handle it. So when we're just talking about multi-passenger, one thing I really like that one company does here in Destin is that if someone calls within the cancellation policy, and they got 130 seats on their boat to fill, so they lose one family, it's not going to really hurt them. They don't give the money back, but they give a free voucher to come back anytime for the entire year. And I think that's pretty cool.
I agree, but now you have situations here. If you take payment and somebody wants a refund versus if you take a credit card and then charge it after the fact. This is why I'm a huge proponent of taking payment in full in the beginning, because somebody is much less likely to cancel when it's their money on the line. So if you charge them and they don't go, I feel like, and this could be wrong, there's no study to support what I'm going to say, but they might have an easier time of going after the chargeback, going after the money. So once it's paid, they're much less likely to. This is just what I've seen firsthand.
Oh, 100%. It's more work for them to have to go through the dispute process and everything. It's paid, and they're more amiable to work things out than they are if it's just a credit card hold.
Right. So if you're doing a credit card hold, that's a tough one. Do you bang their credit card? A lot of the times when, like, if it was like a jet ski rental, an hour rental, $100, something like that, I would just let it die. I wouldn't charge them. I see this with jet skis more than I do with the boat rentals. The jet skis are an unmitigated nightmare. If they show up late or they don't want to take the test or anything, well, I'm not going to pay and blah, 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 blah. So now we take payment in full, and it's like, as you said, it's much more difficult for them to go through the rigmarole of getting their money back or fighting a chargeback. It's going to be two separate things.
I'm a huge proponent of paying in full when taking reservations, where first of all, people are comfortable with doing that. It's not like most activities are around like what, $150, $200, usually an average sale. If you're taking everything, I mean, obviously different industries are going to be lower or higher, but at the same time, it's not so much money that people can do it in advance and they're okay with sitting on it, but it holds them to the agreement a little stronger than if they just have a credit card hold. So you're probably going to get more people showing up. Yeah, there's going to be a cost of the credit card fee to charge and refund. Yeah, that's the risk. But I mean, if you look at it, Kevin, I mean, how many cancellations do you get? If you took your cancellation percentage all year, what is it? Maybe 3%, 4%?
Yeah, it's really small. I can't tell you without pulling a report, but
so maybe the credit card fees to charge and refund on that 3%, is that enough to make you say it's not worth charging in advance, because you're also at the same time getting people to show up and also less likely to do stupid things like try to reschedule, an hour before their trip and things like that. So I think in the large scheme of things, it's a good thing to charge in advance because you're going to have less customers asking for changes and moves and things like that.
And to your point, when you don't when you don't have the systems and process in place, and you kind of, it's not even just a headache for your staff, but they just don't know what to do. They're not given any kind of clear guidelines. So not only is it difficult for them because they're like, let me call my boss, blah, 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 blah. Then they feel like they're bothering you, calling you because this happens all the time. With us, because I do have a lot more flex. As I say, I'm super hard nosed when it comes to the boats. With the jet skis, I have a little more flexibility, being that there is more space in the next tour. So a lot of times, while we still don't refund, we reschedule quite often with the traffic and the things that everybody has to go through. So if I have a lot of availability, then we can reschedule them. So if we say, hey, tomorrow we have X, 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 and Y, people are usually pretty happy with that. I've had a couple people try and demand some refunds and things like that. And my go-to is also when they go, well, I want to talk to the owner. It's my favorite thing. I'm going to pull that at Amazon next time I have a problem. I want to talk to the owner. Get Jeff Bezos on the line. It's really funny. Like, people feel that's, I don't know, like, there's still like an acceptable thing.
I want to get to my story. The COVID grandma.
Oh yeah.
COVID
grandma.
No, you tell the story. It's so funny.
So dumb.
I think it's
so.
hilarious.
Like, at the advice of somebody in the group, they're like, "Yeah, I make them show a doctor's note." I was like, "Yeah, that's fire. I like that." But show me a doctor's note, like on some Ferris Bueller shit. Remember Ferris Bueller, the Sloane Peterson's grandma died. He's like, "Roll her old bones down here," and then the dad calls. I love that scene. But yeah, so that's what I pulled. I was like, let me see a positive COVID test, and then he shoots me a picture of like his grandma in the hospital, and so I immediately like search it on Google. I'm like, grandma in hospital, grandma with COVID. I'm like, come on, let it come up. Let this image come up. Let me find it, because it was a JPEG. And you mentioned that, and I was like, that's so weird. You thought he would just sent like a straight, like a picture of it.
The name of the file name was image1.jpg.
Right.
When you take a photo with your phone, I don't think that it labels it like that.
And it was so fast, and then he would have had to save the image as a JPEG and then send it as an attachment. So I thought that was like a lot of work, because he sent me the positive COVID results as a picture. So either he was like way slick on some of the dog ate my homework shit, or his grandma really was sick. So I mean, just to go to all that trouble for the refund, I was like, okay,
gotta give him credit for going through the trouble.
Yeah. So I do find that the more difficult you make things on people, the harder it is for them to follow through. So a lot of times when they're like, I want to talk to the manager, I always hit them with hit us at our customer service email. Feel free to email me and we can have a normal conversation like that. Yesterday, I had a pretty good one. There was this guy, and there was like a dent in the pontoon walls or something, and he was upset about the boat and the condition. And so he was like wanted a partial refund or something. He was like going back and forth. And the tag, his email signature was like an officer, but her name was like Jamie something. So I was like, I was like responding to each email as though it was a woman, because to be fair, it did sound like a Karen, the way that this person was kind of like bitching and moaning about the boat, and they went out for 4 hours and had a good time, and like the staff, but yet they want a refund. And so I said, with all the person on the other end of the email goes, the dockhand said that the boat was 5 years old. And I said, with all due respect, ma'am, that boat's a 2019 boat, Bennington. It's silver. I know I have it I know what boat you're on. That's a 2019 boat. And it doesn't look like it's a 5-year-old boat. And then the next email was like, I'm a sir. And it was a cop. And he was like in SWAT too. So I was like, all right, what do you want back? He's like 25%. I was like, okay, I misgendered you. So I'll give you the 25% on that one.
How dare you abuse the pronouns?
I know. And then he's like, oh, I'll write you a good review, which meant if you don't give me something back, I'm going to write you a bad review. Yeah. And everybody, if you listen to the show at all, you know how I feel about the weaponization of reviews. Something's got to be done about this, man. I don't know if it's like a business idea, but the weaponizing of reviews there's a problem there, and something needs to happen. But regardless, so if I can't come up with a solution that leaves a happy customer, a return customer, a good review, employee not in the car crying with their head in their hands because they got berated. That's another thing. If somebody like berates my people or is just like super demanding, it's the harder I want to do anything for them. So while I do try and hold pretty hard to our 48-hour cancellation policy, I do bend it and I do break it depending on the customer. If they're cool, if they're a good person, I try and treat people the way I would like to be treated, and shit does happen. So if I feel like I'm getting an honest story, I'll take care of the customer. If somebody's being a Karen, then no. Yeah,
the way traffic is in our area, and I'm sure this is similar to lots of different destinations, if you stuck to your policy pretty hard, you probably would have 3 times, 4 times more terrible reviews. And I think that goes for most. And I think the expectation is that these small companies are going to bend rules, and they play into that a lot. And, that might be the case. I mean, when we had our jet ski business, I mean, I can't tell you how many times people came late and broke all sorts of policies that we had in place. But we had to be flexible to these folks because we want good feedback. We want good reviews. And I love when I see a review when people are like, we came late, expected only half of our rental, we got the full amount. So, the customer service recovery is an important, but that's got to be something that you train your staff and make sure they understand, this is the policy we make, but here's what we really need to do in case if they come late. And maybe there's a form of system, like if you have extra inventory laying around, which in the summer we don't, then who cares if you move them or if you don't expect to be busy the next day. But man, what really pisses me off is when businesses are dead and they don't allow a customer to move. It's like,
so crummy.
Come on. It is so crummy. It's just at that point, why are you even in this business?
Yeah.
Well, it's the policy. This is the policy. I'm like, but you can move the people. It's not, you're in the wrong business if you can't.
I agree, but then I disagree because I find it frustrating that no one would ever go to this length with American Airlines. No one would ever go to this length with Hyatt, with Priceline, with Orbitz. Like maybe they would, but when they pull I want to talk to the owner thing, that's why I said like, well, do you do that with Amazon? No, you know what the guidelines are. You know what it is. Usually when people are doing this, and I'm not saying like the people that are good people that just kind of had like something stupid happen. I'm talking about it rained for 2 hours. I want half my boat time back. I got a guy pulling that one right now. Can I get it? Would you do this with the hotel? Would you do this with an airline? Would you demand if there was a ton of inclement weather and lightning? Would you be at the customer service desk demanding there was so much turbulence on my plane. I'm going to need half my money back. Would you go to Disney World knowing that you're going to rain, that the park's still going to be open? You can either, you can do what you want. You might not be able to go on do whatever, but at the end of the day, you're not going to go stand in that line and argue with customer service trying to get your money back, because it's not going to happen. So I feel like in that regard, the people that fight the hardest are also the people that are the most, that take advantage of the goodwill and take advantage of the fact that you are a small business.
Oh yeah. They know that they can talk right to the main decision maker. If people knew they can talk to the CEO of American Airlines easily, then they would be. They're all about protocol with these large call centers. There's very little gray area. And I understand because in Trip Shock, we have a call center.
Yeah. So I guess at the end of the day, when you get this question a lot, everybody's going to have their own sort of systems and practices and policies. We are still small businesses. So, we're not huge corporations. So that is a part of the charm and the wanting to do business with us. and heck, probably even can leads to some sort of premium potentially on our services, and then repeat customers and lack of having to pay for acquisition costs again. So to have those repeat customers for small business is really important.
What do you think about like private charters, like private fishing charters?
No,
I mean,
that's a bust. That's game over. No, there's no way if you're owner operated charter and somebody doesn't show up or breaks your cancellation policy, especially when you're super busy, that you have to bang them. You have to take the money.
And in those situations, I know a lot of the private charters, fishing charters, those pleasure charters, they don't want to take, the money in advance. A lot of them want to get paid cash. They credit card hold and pay cash. And I understand the reason for it. It makes complete sense. Cash is king. They
want to like break the law.
Yeah.
I hate to, at some point, no matter what you do, you have to start acting. You have to acting as if, because this is a culture that all of the whole world, the way the whole entire world operates it's changing. Even this refund thing is, people are so used to dealing with the online marketplace, Amazon and eBay, and a no question asked refund. That's why people are so adamant about getting their money back, because that's what they're used to. So in order to adapt to the everyday consumer, you're going to have to take payment. You're going to have to take credit cards. Like, how long is like really like fiat cash currency realistically even probably going to be around? It's probably not that much longer, probably not another 50, 100 years, whatever. Like, eventually you just have to start adapting, because people aren't carrying cash. People want, and that, if you have a high churn rate and you're a charter boat and a refund rate and take a credit card, take payment in full, game over. It gives you more security in case someone does want to reschedule or cancel. And pay taxes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, welcome to the rest of the world, man. It's like, if we ever get a bad rap in this industry, it's because we're not conforming to the rules of the game that everybody else has to play by. So that's it. And it's all scalable and it's all doable. So should be no issue there. I mean, a single charter. I don't think single charters are long-term, just viable. Like, I don't know any like 70-year-old men that are, fishing anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I have a couple folks that we book that
are in their 70s,
not in their 70s, but they've been doing private charters for 20 plus years.
Right. Like, and probably living paycheck to paycheck. It's really, it's hard.
Majority of them are. Then you got the few, like the 1% that have a major repeat customer base. Really, it's just the physical abuse of being like a guide captain, the back problems, everything. I mean, it is very, very hard work.
When people ask me like why I left Key West, why I got out of the parasail game, when I tell them like what I used to make, how I used to make it, how much fun it was, everyone was like, man, why would you leave that? I was like, man, I'm 42 years old. Like, I do not want to be a 50-year-old parasail captain, and I've never seen a 60-year-old parasail captain. So
extremely physically demanding. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I agree when it comes to like the private charters, definitely. Yeah. I mean, we got to get into 2021, accept payment up front. That's going to help out. If you ever have situations with cancellations or rescheduling, they're going to be much more amicable to work with you if their money is already in your bank account.
Well, my man, I think I know this week's a little bit of a short little macro episode on a very niche specific topic, but there's been a lot of chatter in the group, so that's why we sort of wanted to address it. And I don't know. Is there any more to say on that topic?
No, we're good.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. And as always, be awkward or keep it awkward or fucking do whatever it is that you do.
Okay. See ya.
You've been listening to the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. If you're in the water sport industry, this is the podcast that brings the business perspective to parasailing, jet and ski boat rentals, sailing, snorkeling, and everything else. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. Be sure to sign up to our email list at watersportpodcast.com and subscribe in your favorite podcast app. We'll see you next time, and thanks for listening.